Hello, Brockton. We are with you today, your Brockton Health Department. And today we are with you to present another public health series. And I have my team here with us to start entertaining you in a very important topic. And we will introduce the topic in just a little bit. But in the meantime, I am Ino Mondesier, the Director of the Health Department for the City of Brockton. And
I'm Victor Sebastian, a public health physician with the Health Department and an epidemiologist.
Hola a todos, mi nombre es Yesenia Urrea y yo soy una trabajadora de salud comunitaria en la Junta de Salud Pública de Brockton.
Alô, boa tarde ou bom dia. Meu nome é Eunice, eu trabalho no Departamento de Saúde de Brockton. Estou hoje ali com o nosso colega para nos trazer mais séries de educação.
today it is important that we come and have a discussion with you because there is a topic that we bring to you today, which is alcohol. Alcohol is a broad drink that we use in many different occasions, but it's broadly used to socialize, and it does have some health implications that we would like to address with you because we care. Brockton cares about you, and that is the reason today we want to be with you and to discuss and to present this topic. And so we would like to start in just a little bit so that we can give you all the information pertinent to alcohol and let you make the decisions. Stay tuned. Hello, everyone. Now we are back with our topic for the day, and we are going to dive right into it as we promised earlier. We are going to talk about alcohol misuse, alcohol abuse, and your health. And so next to me here is Dr. Sebastian, and we are going to talk on alcohol today and the use of it, the misuse or the abuse of it, and also your health. Dr. Sebastian, would you tell us how alcohol affects our health, or how do we talk about use and misuse?
Yeah, there are various reasons why people use alcohol. We know people use alcohol to socialize, as a coping mechanism for the daily challenges, for recreational reasons. When we're in a celebratory mood, alcohol tends to be one of the items for our celebration alongside our meals and other things that we do. And sometimes we use it to relieve ourselves of stress or to aid us to sleep better. And some people also use alcohol as a medicinal, part of a medicinal concoction. And of course, sometimes we use it purely because we enjoy the taste. Yeah, but in the course of all this, there is a tendency to abusing alcohol because we enjoy it, or the people who use alcohol enjoy it. There may be a tendency to overuse it. So for the purpose of this, we want to define basically what is a drink and then what is excessive drinking. So a drink is, in the US, a standard drink size is quantified as 12 ounces of a beer being a beverage that has about 5% alcohol. So 12 ounces of a beer would be equal to a drink. So if you have more than 12 ounces of a beer, you've taken more than a drink. If you have 8 ounces of a wine, a beverage which will be the equivalent of about 12%, 7% alcohol. If you take 8 ounces of that, that will be equivalent of a drink. If you take 5 ounces of a liquor containing 12% alcohol, which will be equivalent of a wine, that will be considered as a drink also. And if you take 1.5 ounces or a shot of a spirit, distilled spirit drinks, that would be, which would be equivalent to about 40% alcohol in terms of alcoholic content. Then 1.5 shots of that, 1.5 ounces of that, an ounce and a half of that would be equivalent of a drink. So these are the various ways we can determine or quantify how much of a drink we have had, and not necessarily any other subjective ways, because we know the human nature. We may want to subjectively de-emphasize how much of a drink we have taken. But in reality, once you take any of these measures, we've taken a drink. We've taken the equivalent of a drink.
Now, let's dive a little bit deeper into the subject matter. Let's talk about some of the facts about alcohol. Now, we drink alcohol like anything else, and it gets into our body, and it is metabolized in our body, and then it reaches our brain. So let's talk about this for a moment.
Yeah, when alcohol gets into the body, it's metabolized by the liver. But the liver needs some time to get rid of that. So it takes about a whole day, 24 hours, for the liver to filter out one drink. Remember, we just defined what a drink is. So that measure, it takes the liver about 24 hours to take it out. And then the rest of it that your liver has not been able to take out within that 24 hours begins to have, the metabolites begin to have its effect on all your body. And all the body is affected, as we will show in the course of this conversation. All the body is affected by the metabolites once the liver has not been able to successfully eliminate it from the body. So that's basically every part of the body is affected: the brain, the liver itself, the kidneys, the eyes. For a pregnant person, the pregnancy, every part of the body is affected by the metabolites of
Yeah. And we all have but just one liver, and the liver is involved in everything that goes into our mouth. In other words, it is the center of detoxification, and so everything goes through the liver.
Very
and
correct.
So now let's move a little bit further. We talk about alcohol use, its abuse, and our health. Now, let's consider, for instance, another component of it and that is the excessive drinking. What is considered as excessive drinking?
Yeah, you recall that we have quantified what a drink is. So by the time what we consider excessive drinking is once you take alcohol to the quantity that begins to have a negative impact on your health. So at what point do we consider it excessive drinking? It's excessive drinking when a woman takes 4 or more drinks. Now, somebody may immediately ask, why men, women? Yes, men, women, because the way our body metabolizes the alcohol differs by gender, by sex. So the feminine, the female person does not metabolize alcohol that fast like it will be in a man. So the quantities differ. It's not any other subjective reason. These are objective measures. So 4 drinks, anything beyond 4 drinks at any one instance. A single instance is an occasion, a festivity, a party, an outing, any occasion within a 24-hour period. The intake of more than 4 drinks by a female, by a woman, by a lady is considered excessive. By a man, maximum 5 drinks. 5 drinks, you recall again, we have already defined what a drink is. that will differ. The quantity that equates a drink will differ if you're taking in wine, or if you're taking in a beer, or if you're taking in, you recall we mentioned this, or if you're taking in a spirit. So let's bear in mind those quantifications. So if someone, for example, if a man takes 10 ounces of a spirit, he's taking well an excess, is excessively drinking. Whereas if he takes 10 ounces of a wine, it will not be considered excessive because that will just be equivalent of 2 drinks. Whereas 10 ounces of a spirit will be excessive because just 1.5 ounces of a spirit is equivalent to a drink. So we need to understand that a man can take maximum of, before crossing into the levels that it begins to become harmful, maximum of 5 drinks on any one occasion within a 24-hour period. And for a woman, maximum of 4 drinks. Okay. So anything beyond this is excessive drinking.
Now, also, we look into the impacts of alcohol, short-term impacts or short-term use of alcohol on our health. So,
in the short term, because alcohol may or not cause a loss of coordination, though that is not our definition of being excessive. Whether you have lost the ability to coordinate and put yourself within some social bounds does not equate to excessive drinking. Once you have taken a sufficient quantity, even if you are absolutely well coordinated, once you have crossed the quantity of drinks you should take, 4 for a lady, 5 for a man, on any occasion, you have drunk, you are really excessively drinking. And that will have its effect. So some of the immediate effects you may experience may be because of loss of coordination. You can run into an accident, you can have injuries. People may fall, the injuries consequent to falling, drowning, burns. These have been observed. The disinhibition may lead to violent behavior. Intimate partner violence has also been found. Homicides, suicides, because of the effect on judgment and the loss of appropriate judgment may lead to some of those. Now, we could also have direct poisoning from the alcohol in itself because it's reached levels that are excessive for the body to handle, and various body organs, breathing, heart rate begins to be affected. So people could have a direct poisoning from the alcohol. You could also have it bringing about an overdose of other medications. They may even be prescription medications, but because of the presence of the alcohol, it results in those overdoses. It may also cause the overdose of other recreational drugs because the alcohol interferes with the way the body handles those other recreational drugs, and then of course, overdose of those drugs can easily occur. And of course, we have other situations in which, because of the impaired judgment, people could be involved in more risky sexual behaviors, and consequently STI, a sexually transmitted disease, or an unplanned pregnancy may arise from that. And in the case of a pregnant person who uses alcohol, there's no amount of alcohol that is tolerated in a pregnancy situation at all. Once a lady is pregnant, zero alcohol is what we recommend. Any drink is excessive. Any drinking is excessive. And in that case, it could result in a miscarriage, it could result in a stillbirth, and then if the baby is, if any of those do not occur, it could lead to what we call fetal alcohol spectrum disorder in the baby that was exposed to alcohol while the mother was pregnant. So these are some of the immediate things that could happen within for an immediate use of alcohol. So those resulting from the loss of coordination and impaired judgment.
Yeah, that's a significant part to mention, because once someone becomes impaired, so judgment is compromised, you know, how the person makes decisions. So those are good points. And also, we could look at long-term use of alcohol and its impact.
Yeah, in the long term, apart from the social and motor dysfunctions that occur in the immediate with alcohol, excessive use of alcohol, in the long term, we have known that, we have confirmed it. Many studies have led us to the strong conclusion that alcohol affects the body. It's been associated with an increase in various types of cancers. Several cancers have been associated with alcohol, excessive drinking, for long-term use of alcohol. And let me mention that this does not spare any form of alcohol, because we have had people in society, people say different sorts of things as if some kind of wine is better than the other. Drinking any alcoholic beverage, whether red or white wine, beer or liquor, all been linked with, by liquor I mean spirits, all have been associated with cancers. And also the risk of some particular cancers are really, the risk of those cancers are significantly increased by any amount of alcohol use, whether excessive or not, including breast cancer in women, for example. And then, unfortunately, alcohol-related cancers has led to about 20,000 deaths in the United States each year. So in the long term, alcohol causes loss of life, cancers, risks, and yet there are still others, but maybe you want to make an observation.
Yeah, and for someone who has, say, genetic predisposition, what by that I mean genetic predisposition for certain type of cancers, drinking can exacerbate or increase the likelihood that the person will have a higher percentage of developing cancer by drinking also.
Very correct. Because when people have a genetic predisposition, that means already they have a heightened risk of a cancer. Now, to have an additional, an additive risk from alcohol use will not be it will not be a situation that turns out in the favor of that person. So a genetically predisposed person should do well by not adding more risks to the life situation that person already is in. And alcohol is a known increased risk factor for many different types of cancers.
Now, if we look further from short term to long term, we could even add additional impact of long-term alcohol use. And one of them we already mentioned already, but we could look at the list and the depth of the impact. For instance, liver disease. We talk about cirrhosis because that's another type of illness that can impact the liver, and sometimes people call it jaundice, because basically once that liver is impacted, then the skin color start to change. So we have a long list of those diseases as well.
Very true. Other than the cancers, there are other long-term risks or impacts that could be consequent from long-term alcohol use. Yes, you've mentioned the liver cancers, liver cirrhosis, which in itself is a liver damage, but it may not be a liver cancer. So you have high blood pressure. High blood pressures have been increased risk of high blood pressure consequent to alcohol use, yes. Heart diseases, the risk of heart diseases increase a lot consequent to alcohol use. The risk of stroke, digestive problems, immune weakness, alcohol use disorder in itself. That is the socio-behavioral dysfunction consequent to alcohol use, so which we call alcohol use disorder. Other than the socio-behavioral dysfunction, you have worsening memory, learning problems are worsened, depression and anxiety is worsened by alcohol use. You'll be surprised. Some people will think it actually helps to make the depression better, but the depression is actually worsened. That is what we have come to observe. Memory problems that could also be affected or worsened by alcohol include dementia. Then, of course, other than memory problem, you have relationship issues. So alcohol has quite a lot of different long-term
quite a bit. And so we have touched a little bit on the medical or health issues, but there are also social, legal issues. So how about if we touch on these also and let our audience know of those?
Long-term alcohol use has actually increased people's experience of getting on the wrong side of the law because of, while the impairment, you have more likelihood of being pulled over, wrong driving, driving license seizures, time spent in the courts. So invariably, people tend to have more legal troubles consequent to alcohol use. Also, the misuse can lead to a situation of tolerance in which the person begins to notice that they need more alcohol to have the feel-good effect. And so gradually they begin to come into a situation in which they depend on the alcohol to have that, the reliefs that it tends to give them. So addictions, alcohol addictions begin to come up, substance misuse disorder, as we would prefer to call it. And then, of course, the impaired judgment means that they are more prone to more mistakes. So social dysfunctions because of the mistakes, because of the social misbehavior. So their social life tends to really begin to experience the negative downturns because of the consequences of the misjudgments, the accumulation of social misjudgments. So in the long term, it impacts the social life. It brings them to the wrong side of the law.
And that can lead to even someone, say, being arrested or being caught driving while under the influence. They can get the license. I mean, they can put their own lives at in jeopardy, and then in danger and life of others. And then they can also lose their license because...
and also it even affects their relationships because when they get into trouble, invariably their loved ones are affected because now the loved ones will need to bail them out, So, it does have quite a cascade of social consequences, both on that person and on the person's relationships.
Yeah. So that with that, we should look at how we evaluate alcohol consumption, shouldn't we?
Yes. If someone has a challenge or possibly you have a doubt or maybe your loved ones has expressed some concern about your alcohol use or an objective way, there are some tools, there are some resources in which you could use to objectively assess yourself. And some of it are on the screen now for those of us, our audience who could see us in addition to hearing us. Some of such tools you could use objectively assess yourself. You see, because if we leave it to personal subjective assessments, everybody would most likely subjectively give themselves a pat on the back or a pass mark. But we have these tools that we could use to make an objective assessment, self-assessment, and then, of course, know whether we need some further assistance or not. And in the event that the personal objective assessment indicates that we need some help, there are resources are available to help us or to help persons affected. Social resources and communal resources. We may speak a little bit into that as time permits us.
Yeah, so we have a great list of resources that people can use actually to get help, because for alcohol there is a lot of things that people can use, a lot of resources that they can tap into in order to get help. And so one of the things I think that we talk about also is that, for instance, when people drive, if they're going to party, then they should designate a driver, or don't drive, take public transportation also. That's one of the ways that people could also, prevent themselves from driving under the influence.
Very true. And also, as a mark of care and responsibility, you shouldn't serve alcohol to people under 21. We know they are friends, we know they are family members, but the responsibility is on us not to serve, no matter the occasion. They are part of the celebration, irrespective of the fact that they are not part of the drinks. They are still part of the celebration. So we should help people we love by not serving them alcohol, as long as they are below 21. And also, we should, if we already know that our loved ones have challenges with alcohol, then we should help them not to drink too much. We should lovingly restrict the amount of alcohol they could be exposed to or they can lay their hands on. Mm-hmm. And then also we should help them to check into the social resources that are available, the proven solutions that could help. And talking about some of these social resources, we have that are available in the city of Brockton. We have the High Point Treatment Center. It's available in the city of Brockton. We have the BMC clinics. Mm-hmm. We have the Brockton Neighborhood Health Center. And then we have the helplines that can be called upon, 833-773-2445. And then we have organizations and social groups, the Alcoholic Anonymous, for persons who are involved in, who are challenged by the issue of alcohol use or misuse. And then we have the Al-Anon for persons who are affected because their loved ones have an issue with alcohol. So we'll gain skills from these organizations to overcome the challenges the individual is facing, or to assist the individual in overcoming some of these challenges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Also, how should we look at, what should we tell folks of those who may have been impacted by someone else alcohol misuse?
Well, the people who have challenges with alcohol generally need our love, they need our patience, they need our support. It's a behavioral change that needs loving support, mm-hmm, rather than critical rather than a ton of criticisms.
And I also know that for people who are in recovery, there is something that a way we could, loved one can help them also by not exposing them to the environment where they're going to be serving alcohol, because the tendency to see the bottle or the glass, and sometimes that can be very tempting. And so I think all these are steps that people can take to prevent themselves. And if you know that you're going to, if someone is drinking and wants to quit, or someone is in recovery, it's best not to go to a social gathering where they're going to serve alcohol.
Yes.
Yeah.
Restricting our loved ones from having access to alcohol is actually a show of love. It's not a show of judgment. So when we have the opportunity to do so, we should do so. It's our loving them, it's not our judging them when we restrict them from having access, because we already identify with their challenges and we're trying to increase their strengths. No, we're not trying to highlight their weaknesses. So when we restrict alcohol availability from our loved ones who have challenges, we're really showing them love, and we're not being judgmental on them.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much, and we also could extend our number to people who are listening to us. They can also reach out to the health department. If all of the other resources fail to help them, they can reach us in the city of Boston, Brockton. Just look at the health department phone number or on the site. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sam. We're happy to help. You can call the Board of Health. We'll connect you to resources that will assist you or that would empower you to assist your loved one. Thank you very much.